What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast. Our guest today started as a one-woman agency and turned it into a powerhouse trusted by Fortune 500 brands like Adobe, Fiat Chrysler, and Hinge. Phillips is the founder and CEO of The Social Standard, a full-service influencer marketing agency built to dominate a noisy market. Before that, she was employee number 2 and COO at Hello Society, helping scale it to a multi-million-dollar success before its acquisition by the New York Times. Today, she's not just building brands, she's rewriting the playbook for women entrepreneurs while raising 3 kids and proving you don't have to choose between impact and ambition. Jessica, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I know we got caught up a little bit, got to know each other before the interview, and we have a lot of like synergy in our background, in our history. So it's going to be fun to dig into that. I've been looking forward to this interview, but I like to kick things off the same way with everybody. Obviously, the name of the podcast is fun and polarizing. If you have the right attitude towards life, some people are like, that name is negative, I don't want to be on the show. I'm like, oh, well, you're not a good fit anyway. So Jessica, what does entrepreneurship sucks mean to you?
Okay, I love the name, first of all, because entrepreneurship does suck, but it's like the best, right? You choose your pain, choose your poison. It's all hard. So like do what speaks to you. And to me, it's entrepreneurship has always spoken to me. But I do think that, especially when I first started, people thought, oh, you work for yourself. You just choose your own hours. You probably work like 3-4 hours a day. And I was like, no, I work more hours than I did when I worked for someone, when I was employed by someone else. I work way more hours. This is like, entrepreneurship has been described to me as like a sickness. And I think that goes along well with what you're saying with entrepreneurship sucks, right? It's like, it's something in you or you can't turn it off, right? You have to do it. You have this like calling, this innate calling to do something, to create something, to build something larger than yourself. That to me is entrepreneurship. And that sucks because it's so much easier to lay back and like chill in the sun and like do all this sort of fun stuff. That's a way easier life. The thing that sucks to me about entrepreneurship is that it's hard and it requires every ounce of everything you have.
Hey guys, the Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast is growing and we have our first official sponsor, LeadFi. And instead of trying to tell you what LeadFi does and how much we love it, we actually just brought the owner of LeadFi here, Douglas James, to explain it to you.
LeadFi helps business owners identify exactly who is financially capable in their funnel in real time. We deliver crucial credit and financial information to include their exact credit score, exactly how much money they can spend on their credit cards, their annual income, as well as their debt to income ratio. We also have underwriting algorithms where we will underwrite exactly how much more money we can help raise for them in business funding. And we deliver all this data to you in real time into your CRM using just name, email, and phone number. This data allows you to also target higher end, high quality leads on Meta and Google, allowing your sales team to focus on high value prospects instead of wasting time on people that are not financially capable.
So if you have a high ticket offer, if you are on a sales team, if you're a closer, if you're a setter, get this in front of whoever the decision maker is if you like making money, because you will be able to have a stacked calendar and only be getting on sales calls with people that can afford your offer. No more tire kickers, no more people being able to lie to you on sales calls and tell you they can't afford it, smoke screen objections, none of that. Scale your offer with LeadFi today. Yeah. So funny. It's like there was a whole like generation of wantrepreneurs that read the 4-Hour Work Week, right? And
oh yeah.
Hopped in and like fizzled out pretty fast, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because back when I was in my sales career in my early 20s, I was crushing it. I was, top sales rep in Southern New England for Verizon, working like 80 hours a week. And I was enjoying it. And I was really good at it because I don't know. I think that being like ADHD and not being the best student, but still wanting to get good grades, like you're always looking for like the easiest way to do something, maximizing efficiency of everything. And so like, I just like completely came in, like, I don't care, millions of dollars in corporate consulting for their sales process. I came in and just kind of gutted the thing. And I'm like, I'm going to do it my way, if that's okay with you guys. They're like, yeah, sink or, swim or sink. Right. So, and that was like one of the first times where I realized like I mean, shit, if these guys are spending millions of dollars, this is a Fortune 100 company. I'm their consulting, and they put me through almost a month's worth of training, and I'm doing 180, 200% of quota out the gate, doing it my way. Maybe there's more for me beyond this, and it took a few years, but yeah, it instantly became a calling, and it doesn't shut up. It's like, you ever watch Dexter? It was like my dark
Yes.
passenger. Like I couldn't get it to shut up until I listened.
Yeah, yeah. Well, did you come from a family of entrepreneurs, or are you kind of the first in your family to do this?
Kind of. I mean, my dad mostly made his success in sales and network marketing, like kind of entrepreneurial. I mean, a lot of people get their start in entrepreneurship in network marketing, but he never ventured out beyond like that kind of middle ground of like it's still structured. Somebody else built it and handed you a system versus like me. Even that, I got my start in network marketing a little bit before my entrepreneurial journey because it's just low hanging fruit
Mm-hmm.
and I had the sales skills and all that, but then it's like, ugh, I don't want to know. Like I want to do things my way. I want to be creative. It was artistic for me.
Yeah.
Like there's an artistic element to it that like I need to create. I need creative freedom. Like time freedom is cool. Like, and that's you get that once you create systems and processes and balance within your life. But that's not the beginning. You got to just grind your face off, honestly. But for me, it was the creative outlet that mattered the most. Is like just like I said
Mm-hmm.
at my first, one of my first sales jobs. It's like if I came in and did it like they wanted me to do it, I would have had the same result as everyone else. Like kind of just
Yeah.
barely meeting quota, maybe not, versus coming in and like doing 880%, 200% of quota, making
Mm-hmm.
like 10, 15 grand a month at like 21 years old when
Yeah.
everybody else that I know is like, maybe pulling 40.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was
Well,
it.
look, I think sales is like a direct line into entrepreneurship, though. I mean, there are some people who just enjoy that and they don't have to think about, all the other things with building a business, and that's great for them. But entrepreneurship is sales. You have to sell your dream, you have to sell your vision. Otherwise, no one's going to buy into it. So, I
Yeah.
think that it's a great stepping stone to entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah. I think, when I talk to entrepreneurs that don't have a background in sales, I see a consistent pattern of a disadvantage that
Mm-hmm.
they have in the early stages of their business. Especially, it's like the last thing when I'm scaling a company, the last thing I delegate is sales, and that's the first thing. If you don't have a background in sales, that's the first thing that entrepreneurs will try to get off their plate because it's the
Mm-hmm.
most uncomfortable. It's the one that like, and I think that's a mistake. But
Interesting.
I think I think at the end of the day, sales is just communication, human psychology, and customer service. If you're good at sales, you're not selling. You're uncovering what your clients or prospects' pains are and solving their
Mm-hmm.
problems. And if you're not
Yeah.
doing that, then that might be why you're not good at sales. Like you might
Yeah.
want to like go to the root of what you're actually supposed to be doing for people. You're still serving people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That
But
makes sense.
Jessica, tell me about like let's start from the beginning, like because I like to
Okay.
touch on like when did you first, catch the entrepreneurial bug, and then like when did you answer the
Yeah.
call? Because they're not at the same
Yeah.
time, right?
That's right. Yeah. Very, very rarely are they at the same time. So I actually come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My whole family, my dad is an entrepreneur. I grew up watching him build businesses, redo, shift, change, all sorts of stuff. And so you just kind of once you've seen the path, I think it's a little bit easier to digest and it feels a little less scary when someone has done it, right? So I think I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, right? But I didn't start out that way. So after school, I actually went into investment banking and then private equity and then made it into startups. But I always knew I was going to be in business for myself. And in fact, I remember being, to your point, 20 something out of college, was at an investment bank and working all these crazy, stupid hours. And I remember my dad was like, "How's it feel? How's it feel making money for somebody else?" And I was like, "God damn it. Like, get out, like, come on." But I knew I had to get some sort of like, I needed a fast track to something to understand because I didn't have the pull of what I wanted to do yet. And that was the beautiful thing about investment banking, which, by the way, if anyone's listening, investment banking is not glorious. I feel
Hmm.
like it's you're a real estate agent for companies. And it's just a bunch of like nonsense. But private equity was really interesting. So I loved my time in private equity. I spent 2 years there at a firm in Boston. And what was so great about it was you had to canvas a space and an industry, and you had to become an expert in like a month, and then decide if your firm is going to write, a huge, like, $20 million plus check to support this business. So high stakes. And so you had to get smart real fast. And so figuring out that strategy was really helpful. And then right along that time, I saw that Pinterest was coming up. I thought, oh, this is it. And at the time, my my now husband, and I were getting ready to go travel the world for like 8 or 9 months. This has been our plan forever. But what I did was I emailed Ben, who was the CEO of Pinterest at the time, the founder, and I said, hey, if I can come, I'll come work for you. They were at his apartment, like this is like 5 people at Pinterest, right? I was like, I'll come work for you. I'll do whatever. Like, you don't even need to pay me. Just give me stock. Like, I'm in. He didn't answer the call. That was the only thing I was going to put off my trip for, and he didn't take it. So I ended up going on this big trip, and then coming back and moving to Los Angeles. And there I got into the startup world, which oddly enough was at Hello Society, and that was a company around Pinterest influencers. And so
Let
I
me
got my
there though. I want to understand something. So
yeah.
you said Pinterest when they had 5 employees. What was it like that made you like? How did you know?
Yeah, I was the demographic, right? At the time, I'm like mid 20s, and I'm starting to look, and you have to think about this because go back to this time frame, there's no Instagram. It's Facebook, it's YouTube, there are blogs, and then there's Pinterest. There's no Instagram, there's no TikTok, there's no short form video, none of this stuff. Say that again?
MySpace was already kind of made its
MySpace
run.
was starting, was dwindling. Yes, exactly. And so this was something where I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You can make collages, you can build boards. It's like this creative outlet for something that as like a high schooler, I used to cut out magazine clips and tape them all over my notebooks and make collages, right? This was amazing. It was like online shopping, but you could organize it in a way that you were interested, and it was like very inspiring. And I was immediately addicted, and I just had that, it was like that ping of like, this is going to be huge. Like, get into this if you can get into this. And unfortunately, he was uninterested.
Besides like loving the
Mm-hmm.
knowing that it was going to win, was there anything, being in private equity at the time, was there anything about like maybe their backing that you were like, okay, this is a good idea and they have good money behind it? Or
No, they didn't. I don't even think they'd really raised more than like a small amount, a very small round. Like, I'm talking, they were still, I think, in Ben's like one room apartment.
I asked because when I decided to go all in on Instagram in like
Mm-hmm.
2013, maybe, it was like nobody really knew that it was going to be acquired by, people didn't know it was going to be the next big thing. People didn't know
Yeah.
Facebook was going to buy them. I just
Right.
saw it. I just could
Okay.
tell. I'm like, Facebook is what it is. MySpace is gone. Like
Yeah.
nobody, like Twitter. Okay. I don't know. I never really got Twitter. For me, still to this day, I don't
Yeah.
get it.
It's not my
It's like,
favorite either.
you're just putting your thoughts out into the universe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you seem more like a visually creative person, whereas that's a better platform for those who are writers, right? That's why you see a lot of people transition now from X to like Substack. You see a lot of those parallels being drawn is because that's the writing side of the
yeah. Yep.
equation.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, what I saw, and especially once I got into the like, everybody always told me like from high school on, they're like, you should do stand up comedy, you should do this, whatever. And like, I'm like, I don't have time for that, right? Like the ROI on my time, like that needs to be like once I'm like wealthy, I'll do it as a hobby. I'm not doing that as a career, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then once I'm like, okay, Instagram, I'm seeing all these memes. I'm
Hmm.
like, all right, memes is where it's going.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know, but nobody really made it's so funny what we know, and then we don't. It takes so long to adopt it, even though we know it. Like Super Bowl ads. What's the best Super Bowl ads? They cost the most, and they have the most impact. Like, and what are the best ones? The funny ones, right? So, like, I very quickly saw that, like, okay, I'm going to sell whatever I want to sell with comedy, with memes. And it just
Hmm.
made sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked, like, what was it about Pinterest? So
Yeah.
continue. So you ended up going on your trip and
I
then
did. I came back, then I got connected with an incubator in Santa Monica, and then got introduced to Hello Society. Started there. We took off the races. We're doing crazy amounts of sales. And, I ran the sales there, and Didn't know anything about, like, what I knew about sales was what I'd seen at private equity and board meetings, right? So I knew how to set up a CRM. I knew, to do reports, and I knew a lot of that stuff, but the actual act of selling had no idea. So I just learned trial by fire, and we were off to the races, and man, it really took off, and it was a really exciting time.
You think that was an advantage for you, not knowing anything about sales?
I think so. I also think I'm a natural seller. So I don't want to say, because to your point earlier, I think you've made this about like some people, if you don't know how to sell or you want to offload that initially, I do think it's better in some cases because if you're a very technical founder, if you're a product based founder, sometimes those folks aren't as comfortable in the social dynamics. And you really need someone who is outgoing and networking. And, I think even I've learned a tremendous amount over the years versus what I did at Hello Society versus our approach at the social standard, right? And seeing how that's taken off because at Hello Society, it was a lot of smaller companies that we were working with. And then at the social standard, I went straight for the big guns.
That makes sense.
So
I mean,
it's a totally different world.
I just recently watched the BlackBerry movie, and that's exactly that, right? They had
Mm,
amazing tech, like unbeatable, and they just
yeah.
until that third guy came in, they couldn't close anybody, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you see that a lot. Like even you see it in Apple. I don't know, a long time, like this was forever ago before Apple was, America's hero effectively. But I had a Guy Kawasaki on my podcast and he was the chief evangelist officer for Apple, an evangelist guy previously too. And he was talking about how like his whole role as an evangelist was this is when Apple was in the dumper. Like Steve Jobs is like Michael Dell's out there saying Apple should give the cash back to its stockholders and just close up and like go away because it's not going to work. It's a PC world. And so his whole role, Guy's whole role there was to build basically evangelists and support the evangelists, the people who were excited and these like proactive people with Apple, right? To go out and to arm them with information to get them to kind of build the troops. And that's really sort of influencer marketing 101. It's just before they had followings, right? This is still when everything was in person, it was all word of mouth. And so to me, that's really interesting, right? That's another way to do it. And that's a role that if you've ever met Guy or heard him speak, he was meant for, right? But he's not the guy who's over here building the software and doing all the stuff. Like those are two different roles. So I do think that there is a special person who can do both of those. But I think by and large, people fall into one or two camps. So I mean, my strategy as an entrepreneur is always to support people's strengths and don't punish them for their weaknesses. So if you're great at all this stuff, but you're not great at this, like how can I get somebody in here to help you and assist you? And I did that a ton with my head of sales at Hello Society because he was kind of like you, where he's off to the races and he's blowing his quotas and he's doing stuff. And my account team was like, oh, he's so annoying. He does this, this, and this. I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's doing this. And that's what we hired him for. So we're going to help him with this. And I think that's really important because especially as a new entrepreneur, you can get so focused in like the details of like what's not working because that's kind of how our brains are operating, right? As you're a systems person, your operations, like what's not working in this moment. And I think it's so important for relationships and for team building and for employee management that you get in there and you figure out like I hired this person to do their job. Are they doing this? Yes. Okay, where do they struggle? What if I put a support person under this? Does that mean this person can hit 100 to go from 150% quota to a 300% quota? Great. That's what we want. We're all pushing the ball forward. So how do we push that ball forward in a much faster way, right? You support the weaknesses all day.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, I had a business partner for about 3 years. We just went our separate ways, but yeah, I've been kind of figuring out like, do I want to go take things to the next level solo, or do I want to find another Wozniak to my Steve Jobs?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I also think we're in the era of like solopreneurs, right? Especially with AI and all the tricks that AI comes with. And like, it's, as a solopreneur now, I think you used to like the idea that you needed to build these huge, colossal teams to do work and to be successful doesn't exist anymore, right? You can work with contractors and freelancers and all sorts of different types of people to come in and help you when you need it. And then what I love about that is that these freelancers, these contractors, they're also entrepreneurs. They're running their own business. And so now they're serving you as a client instead of a boss. And I think that relationship is much different. They are much more willing to say yes, to do things, to go above and beyond because nothing's really secured in that. But I love the solopreneur thing. I think that the more autonomy each and every one of us can have in our careers and our financial freedom and our lives, the better. That a taste of true sovereignty is the most addicting elixir in the world.
So, all right, so you started working for Hello Society, right? And then at what point did you actually answer the calling?
Yeah, so I had been thinking about it for a while, and this was kind of my launch pad for this because I was running the business at Hello Society. I was doing all the hiring and the selling, the everything. And then at a certain point, you just start to, it's kind of like what you were saying. I start to say, I want to do things differently. I don't love our investors. I don't love our incubator and how things are going down here. I think I could do it better. And so at that time, Instagram had been bought by Facebook, and it was starting to really creep up. And I thought, you know what? They're going to push us to do this here with Instagram influencers, or I can head out and start it, and I'll start on Instagram there. And even at that moment, I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to stay in influencer marketing and should I try something else? But I think what I knew, that's that sort of deep internal knowing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people have, was that no, you got to stay here because you know this, you're good at this, and you are just at the tip. And
Yeah.
so, that became a true, that played out, right? It was obviously very true. And I'm very glad I stuck with it because it's clearly the right path for me.
What was that first campaign, like that first client? How'd that go for you?
Yeah. Well, I will say, so for those of you out there who have struggled, you'll understand this, or are currently struggling, this may help, is that it took me a while to get my first client, like a while. I think I started officially in the summer, and I didn't land my first client until February of that next year. And there was a reason. It's because I was not going for small fish. I refused to do it. I thought, I'm one person right now. I know what I can do. I need bigger clients. This is where I want to break through. So it took me 7-8 months to get that first client. And it was a small deal, $30,000, but great. But then my next deal, fast forward, I think this was maybe 2 or 3 months later, was with L'Oreal, and it was for $500,000. And I'm in my apartment in Santa Monica, sitting at my kitchen table in my yoga pants, and it's just me. And I was like, this is it. This is why I waited. This is why I did not give in, because now I've secured enough money to go out and to not only to pay myself, but also to go out and start hiring a team and getting really serious about that.
Yeah, I love it. So, all right, you take on L'Oreal, $500,000.
Yep.
Now, I mean, what are we talking? Like, you're just starting out, right? Like, and I remember, like I mentioned before, I have a background in influencer marketing as well, but mine was very niche specific. I worked with close to 400 meme accounts. I
Mm-hmm.
started the first meme engagement, like Telegram community, basically. So I just invited, back then Instagram DMs, you had a limit to, like, I think it was like 5 or 8 people you could have in a DM, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm running all these DM shout out groups. And I'm like, this
Mm-hmm.
is wildly inefficient. So I pull everybody. I'm like, come over to Telegram. We're all doing it together.
Yeah.
Right. And I had I think 180 accounts when we
Mm-hmm.
really started getting some momentum, when I first started asking people to run paid promos for my Shopify store. But that was like, my jab right hook, right? It was like, I'm going to help everybody grow because I know how to. Some of these guys had, it was a minimum 50,000 followers to get into the group, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
accumulated following in this group, some of them had 10 million, right? So the accumulated following was huge. And every day it was just like one person out of that 180 people were
Yeah.
getting shouted out by the other 179. So they were seeing insane growth in a 24-hour time frame, right? And then, so yeah, we got into them promoting my Shopify store. Obviously I built the relationship, so it's like
Yeah.
$500, to everybody else. Like, they're charging Fashion Nova, Adam and Eve
Yeah.
$1,000, but they're only charging me like 100, 200. So my
Yeah.
margins were amazing. So I asked, like, what was the hardest part in the beginning? Was it getting results for your clients? Was it getting in front of enough influencers? Was it the actual, like, analytics side of things? Like I remember, after working with hundreds of influencers, I really kind of narrowed it down to like 25 that I was throwing 90% of my budget at. And then I had like tier 2 and tier 3 that were like backup if people weren't available, because I was
Yeah.
getting like 20x day in and day out with certain people, right? So tell me about
Yeah.
this. Like, I'm really
Yeah.
interested.
Well, I think so. Two things. One, I'd say that tiered system is still an approach that we use today. So
Hmm.
that was, you're right on the money with that. But the hardest part of all of it was really just getting in front of the brands, because influencers at this time, it's like 2013, it's still a relatively new term, right? Instagram was a relatively new platform. People didn't really know how to measure or do anything, but I was literally sending emails. I would go through and I would prep my list on LinkedIn, wherever, grabbing all the contact information. And I was emailing people from about 8:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night, like literally 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, for months and months on end. And it was just, you're running on faith at that point. Faith that you just need one or two folks and then it's going to take off. And the best part about that is once you did get in, I got into agencies first, big agencies, Digitas, Wyden and Kennedy, those guys. And so once you were in there, they started kicking you around to other people. And they were blown away that you could make this stuff happen. It was wild. So being a first mover is always a huge advantage once you're in and once you've got it, right? It's just, can you hang on long enough to that point to get there?
Absolutely. Okay. So, for you, I mean, as your second client, I mean, we're talking $500,000. Like what,
Yeah.
how much of that was budget? Like what did you actually like budget for the actual campaigns versus like, how many people did you hire? Like, help me understand.
No, I ran the whole thing myself. So this was the genius part of it. Was it was about 10 influencers that I used.
Okay.
And because here's the thing, Digitas was a media company. So they're looking at this on like CPMs. And so they were willing to pay a lot higher of a rate than they would be probably today.
Yeah.
Just because it was much different. But I had, I only worked with like 10, 11 influencers and they were posting. My magic has always been, you don't post once and leave it with an influencer. It's always a multiple thing. Like that's something I use in my client strategy even today, because no one in the free world says, I'm going to show you an ad once and then never again and assume you're going to buy. That's insane. And so I use that same sort of approach with influencers. And I said, look, we're going to work with these 10 people and they're each going to post 3 times over the next, 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I worked with large people and we got that budget done real fast. And it was easy for me to do. That's the thing, is like the margins were good and it was just me, and it's wild, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just, I think that especially if you're pioneering a new space or a new way of doing something, what is always, where I've always found success is in taking the language that they understand currently and applying it to the new way, because it makes it less scary for people. People don't shut down automatically because they have no idea what you're talking about. This is new. I don't know. I don't have time. It's like, no, this is the same thing as what you're already doing. It's just a different medium. That's it. And you want to be here because look at all this and look at the engagements that you're getting. It's incredible. And I mean, L'Oreal used those stock photos on their actual website for a really long time too.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, I mean, what are we? We're 13 years doing this since that first couple clients, L'Oreal and the other one.
Yeah.
How have things evolved? Tell me about like the ups and downs. Tell me about the moments where you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw in the towel on this shit. I can't take it anymore." Like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you're on the like whoop up and to the right pattern, everything's great, in terms of like it all feels exciting, it feels new, it feels grand. And I think the hardest part just becomes like the stuff that you didn't really get into the business to do. It just becomes the people management and like, all that stuff that's just not really that exciting. HR issues, like just that's the sort of stuff where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to call it back down. We're going to do this with 6-7 people and it's going to be great. That's usually when I start to get frustrated, because I just don't like the drama personally. And I'm like, hey, we're here to do the work. We're here to do a good job.
Yeah, I didn't get into this to herd stray cats. Like I have a standard completion to excellence, and please don't make me have to talk about this more than I want to.
Exactly. Yeah. So that I think is honestly the biggest pain points of anything is just the people management.
Yeah.
And I always say, I'm an excellent manager. I am. I could be a wonderful manager if that's all I had to do. But the reality is when you're an entrepreneur, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And so it's like a certain point, you're like, I don't know, we gotta move past this, So
I just got off of a flight. I was at a live event for 3 days, and now I got a podcast interview, and
you're doing a lot of stuff.
Sales calls today. Do I really have to sit here and have this conversation with you? That's the frustrating part.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then I think you get smarter and then you start to hire people. I had a guy who ran my accounts team forever, and he was wonderful. He was great. He was a great manager. He was like super PC and like just calm and a chill dude. And anyone could say anything to him, but he had a good head on his shoulders. Right. Like he would call me and say, here's what's going on. I'm like, well, what do you think? And he's like, look, here's the reality of the situation. But it was never an asshole move. And that's the type of person you need. And I loved working with him. He was wonderful. So finding good people is always the secret to making your head hurt less.
So how have things evolved in the influencer marketing space? Because obviously, you know, like I said, I did a lot of that for my Shopify store, you know, from
Yeah.
2014 to 2018, 19, right? And
Yeah.
but now I'll do clipping services once in a while for people, but I won't do influencer marketing campaigns. I think we talked about this a little bit.
We
It's
did.
I feel like it's the new evolution of influencer marketing where it is more
Yeah.
focused, but you have more control over, instead of making sure you pick the right influencer and the right, like looking at their analytics and everything, you have more control over the CPM and everything. You know, it's view based, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I don't really. I think the only thing that's really changed is that it's matured. Like, of course, yeah, there are new platforms, right? TikTok's burst on the scene, so we have that. We have a lot of different things like that. People are obviously moving to short. Everyone's doing short form video, right? So a lot of those things have changed, but like realistically, has it changed? No, it's kind of the same concept. There are just a lot more influencers, and I think now more than ever, having an agency or an internal team that can curate the right influencers is really important.
yeah, I would say so. I mean, managing it myself even back in 2015, 16
Yeah.
was, it was an undertaking. It was a
Mm-hmm.
full-time job in and of itself that I couldn't delegate,
Yeah.
because how do you train for something that you are, like, you created, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't have an SOP around who I am.
Right.
I just made all this shit up. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have time to create an SOP around it because I'm managing it.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. It's like a little bit of, I think that's always a really critical step for any entrepreneur is when you figure out the moment where you need to step out of the day to day. On like for us, it was management of campaigns, right? Like once I stepped out of that, I would still come in for client meetings and I'm working with strategy and I do that stuff because I love it. But I'm not, I'm not chasing influencers down to get their like, payment information or their posts or any of that sort of stuff. I think once you step out of that, then it frees you up to do a lot of other things. And I know that's a really challenging moment in the career as an entrepreneur because it's your baby and you're handing it over and you're scared,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
totally get that. But I think the thing that's interesting about influencer marketing right now, though, is what I love about it, what gets me really excited is seeing all of these influencers of varying sizes, even 20,000 followers. People are building whole businesses around this. You don't have to have 2 million followers to build a business.
Yeah.
It's like these people who are in the niches are doing wonderfully well.
I made my first 100K in 9 months off of
Yeah.
a 7,000 following on
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram. I grew my account to 7,000 followers, but I was
Yeah.
making that money as it was growing. And
Mm-hmm.
at its peak, it only had 7,000 followers. But
Yeah.
this is back when, like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, it's kind of like a Kanye West type of like Gemini thing, I guess. I'm always looking like at least 2 to 3 to 5 years ahead of what's working right now. Always,
You're
right?
a Gemini. You're a
Working
Gemini.
right now is like boring to me. Yeah, it's like if everybody can have it, I don't want it type of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, that's always what I say is that if everyone's going left, I'm going right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good, but sometimes you could miss the mark because honestly, I was early on B2B influencers. I pivoted a little too hard, and it is something that's still happening, and we've made good money off of B2B. And we have great clients in the B2B space, so it's not like it was a huge mistake, but it's like we were early. We were definitely early. So you have to balance that a little bit. But you have to be early enough that no one else is, not that many people are doing it, but not so early that people don't have budgets for it, right? That's the balance.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's like double dutch. It's like you got to know like
Yeah.
exactly when to hop in, right? So okay, cool. So like, how do you, like, right now? Obviously, AI is
Yeah. Yeah.
ridiculous, right? Like it's we're at that mass adoption curve,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably the most impactful across all areas of human life.
Yeah.
maybe the internal combustion engine or fire. I don't know, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So how is it impacting your industry? How are you riding the wave and leveraging it to your advantage versus
Yeah.
functioning from a place of like fear it's going to take over your no yeah I mean
No, I'm not scared of AI at all. I think it's interesting. It's another beast that has to be tamed, of course. But where I see AI happening, like on my end with what we're actually doing at the social standard, candidly, not a huge impact right now, besides like operational things, right? But where I see AI impacting the influencer space and what we're watching is like two things. So one, like obviously there's AI generated content, which brands they're not going to want to be part of if it's known, right? If it's known and we're signing up for an AI generated account, that's great. But like you have to watch their content, you have to make sure like they're not things that they're doing are real. Because when you're working with an influencer, an influential account, you're working with their authenticity. And their
yep
authenticity can be fake, by the way. You could just
yeah
be an account that does tons of AI generated stuff, and that's okay, right? As long as we know it. But you have to look out for that authenticity. And then also I see influencers using it a lot to like craft posts to help direction, like especially on like LinkedIn. That's where I see a lot of AI content as well. And then the blog posts. So it helps a lot. But I think also this is the same thing I would tell people when um, a lot of tech came into the influencer space. You have to remember you're not in a tech space with influencers. You're in a human to human space. That's one thing. The second thing is these tech companies are saying, "Oh, we can curate all these lists of all these different influencers." And at the time, it was limited because API calls and a bunch of different things. And I said, "Look, that's great. But if you're paying for the software and so are your three competitors, you're all looking at the same list because they can't go through everything. There has to be like a manual human component to finding these people and to vetting them and figuring it out."
yeah
So,
absolutely
it's
yeah
limited, right?
I mean
But
I
it's
think where we
the
are
potential is there, and I think people get drunk on the potential. It's just not quite there yet.
yeah I mean I went all in on AI in like 2022. Same thing. I saw it, I saw it was coming just like Instagram, and I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm all in on this. But me coming from this time around, it was less on the marketing and branding side of things. It was more on sales. And I'm like, I'm going to empower salespeople with AI and help businesses scale without all at the end of the day, we have, whatever unit of measurement you want to use for how much energy we
Mhm.
have in a day, and each unit of energy is being expelled on follow-ups and
Yeah.
tire kickers and
Yeah.
emails and all these things. And it's like, okay, I have 20% of my daily energy to actually be present on sales calls, but it's responsible for 100% of my income, right?
Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
now, like I'm using the Pareto principle and just focusing on how do I automate. And with that's where my background
Yeah.
20 years in sales comes in. It's like, okay, tech people, this is what we say in our company, is like tech people build tech that works, salespeople build tech that converts, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what landed me opportunities with High Level. Sean Clark came on the podcast, and then we ended up working with them for their entire AI employee rollout, and that was fun and amazing. But it was really my sales background, not my tech
Yeah.
expertise. I
Yeah.
went all in on AI to leverage my sales experience to solve a problem in the market that is a bunch of techies building functional bots that don't actually understand sales psychology and actually convert leads into booked calls or
Hmm.
buyers, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a huge advantage, right? So I asked about like AI and
Yeah.
influencer marketing, and like I told you, I'm always thinking like 2, 3, 5 years ahead of what everybody's
Yeah.
doing now.
Yeah.
My thing is, I'm already I'm working with Onik Single, and he's got the whole AI clone. I don't know if you saw that.
No, that
Like
sounds cool.
clone yourself with AI, and I'm like already trying, spearheading like, all right, how do
Mm.
we have live shopping on TikTok, right? 20 like why don't
Yeah.
we put a clone in there, live 24/7 AI,
Interesting.
right? It's like, what did Kim Kardashian just do with one of her live, TikToks or whatever, right? She did a live, and it was
Well,
like,
live shopping is definitely coming back, and it's finally booming. Where I think people talked about it like 3 or 4 years ago as a big deal, and it just wasn't happening because it was huge in China, right? But not here. And now, yeah, now TikTok Live is definitely blowing up live shopping. But here's the thing. Here's just here's how I would counsel people is to say, look, this is great. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you can't use it, because the reality is like if we're using AI to send emails, which we all know we are because we open our inboxes every day and we see tons and tons of stuff. The problem is that inbox becomes incredibly crowded, which means it becomes less and less valuable as time goes on. That's the same with the more people that are doing live shopping on TikTok, the less like the conversion rates are going to decrease. It's going to become less interesting. And so it's a
Gary Vee talks
special
about
thing right now and people are interested, right? But it becomes less interesting over time. So
It's what Gary Vee talks about all the time is like every year you have to think about and pay attention to where's the
yeah,
undervalued attention right now, right? Because
yeah,
every year it
yeah,
changes. It doesn't stay in the same place,
yeah.
right?
But also, I also kind of play devil's advocate to a lot of like Gary Vee types. Nothing wrong with Gary Vee. But I'm just, a lot of how they make their money is by talking about things rapidly changing and you can't keep up. And here, it's a fear sell to people, right? And so, but the reality is like, no, actually, we're still literally doing the same thing. At the end of the day, you're still marketing to another human being. The tactic might be a little different. The same marketing principles apply. They just do. It's not, nothing is rocket science, you guys. It's like, it's just,
Well, yeah,
this isn't that hard. Just tune in. You tune in for a little bit. And a lot of execs at companies who didn't understand influencer marketing, it's like if you could walk in and again, you can speak their language, you could talk to them about it, they get it. All of a sudden they're like, okay, awesome. I'm in. Let's move on this. It's just about getting your audience into the right sort of channel or the right lane to move them.
yeah, it's funny 'cause, like it's just about like you said, like the principles still apply. It's just like how we
Yeah, it's just nothing is that complicated. I always tell people it's like it's just not that hard. It's not that hard. I mean, people just think, oh, because I don't understand it or they're not interested. And I think that's a big thing is like a lot of senior execs just weren't interested in getting on Instagram. But then what happened was you bide a little bit of time. You bide 6, 7 years. All of a sudden, guess what? They have teenagers. Where are their teenagers at? They're on Instagram. Now they're starting to get it. Now they're starting to see it. And now they're starting to value it. Right. So sometimes it's just a little bit of like a 5-year window can change someone's perspective colossally. And then it's off to the races. I think influencer marketing is like crazy line item budgets now, right? Whereas it never used to be. We didn't know. Do we go to the social team, to the digital marketing team, the paid team? Where is this budget coming from? But now it has line items. So, it's the difference of, it was probably the difference of 5 years. The question is just whether or not you can hang on that long for it to be more mainstream.
Yep. I love it. And honestly, I think that's kind of what's happening with clipping right now. Like I don't market any clipping services. I don't like
Yeah.
have conversations about it unless people ask. Like the only
Hmm.
two clipping campaigns I ran last year were ClickFunnels and Steve Larson
Yeah.
and Mark X.
Yeah.
And they just happened to come on the podcast, or I had a
Yeah.
relationship with the co-founder of ClickFunnels' brother-in-law, and it was just like they're there, they want it, okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. But yeah, I think there's a gap. It's funny every time there's something new
Yeah.
that comes around. It's like the pendulum swings and it needs to settle in the middle somewhere. And I think that influencer marketing and clipping like feel like
Hmm.
polarizing things right now. But I think it's going to settle in the middle to where they're going to kind of be an amalgamation, the evolution of
Yeah.
because micro influencers already have become much more valuable than like I don't know, you tell me, actually this is a better
Yeah.
question than for me to tell you is
Yeah.
you've seen a shift in
Hmm.
brands going from working with the people with 10 million followers and putting a large percentage of their budget towards that to now spreading it out across the same budget but across 400 micro influencers, correct?
Well, I think we definitely saw that trend a few years ago, and that's reshaping now. So what's happening is like I think what brands have figured out is that those micro influencers are great for affiliate campaigns, ones that don't need high touch management. Because the reality is, if you're launching campaigns with 400 influencers, how many people do you need, or how much do you have to pay in agency fees to manage that? And would it have been easier and more worth it just to put it into larger influencers? Where I like to play and where I always recommend our clients play is in that middle bandwidth, not the Kim Kardashians, not the big time people. They're just a pain in the butt. And it's always, 50-50 on whether the deal is going to even happen ever,
Yep.
even right the day before they're supposed to post, right? That's stressful on another level. But it's the people who are at, and I would say right now, it's probably about 150,000, probably 850,000. That's the band that I think is performing really, really well. And so I like those people because they're worth the the higher touch frequency, they have enough scale and reach. And now because everyone's putting paid behind everything, you get so much more value out of it. So I always say that's the way to go, unless you're like a super new brand and you're just kind of reaching out and doing stuff and building relationships. And I always say, you know what, you don't need an agency. You just need like a junior person to go out and handle it for you. Yeah, I personally I don't want to say I don't see the value in micro creators because that's not true. But I think that you have to be realistic with how you're actually spending those dollars and does this actually make sense?
Yeah, I guess right. Yeah, it depends on what you're optimizing for. Are you going
Yeah.
views? Are you going opt-ins? Are you looking for conversions like revenue campaign? Like
Hmm.
what are you optimizing for? Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think that you and I should have probably like post interview. I think there's opportunity for us to probably
Yeah.
some clients to each other or something. So I'd love to stick around after the interview and kind of chop that up. But I'd love to know, like, for the listeners,
Hmm.
for the people who are watching on YouTube, who's the ideal person to reach out, who's a good fit, who's not a good fit, and then what can everyone expect from you guys in 2026? What are you excited about in 2026 that everybody else should be aware of it and be excited about as well?
Yeah. What I'm excited about this year's podcasts. That I really view as the next sort of extension of where communities are going. Because if you look at the way that TikTok has shaped everything with the algorithms, and Instagram's doing the same thing now, YouTube as well, where it's hook, it's click, it's hook bait, right? So the communities aren't being built as deeply as they once were. It's not to say they aren't happening. I think if I were rank order it, it'd be like TikTok is the worst for community, right? And then there's YouTube, and then there's Instagram. That's just where I see it. But I see communities veering very quickly into podcasts because where else are you spending an hour, maybe once a week with someone?
Yeah.
Right. And that's direct and it's intimate and you feel like you know them in a lot different ways. And then they also are building communities on social. So it's just so many touch points. So these are the new sort of growing influencers in a lot of ways, in my opinion. And so we're tracking that really closely. It's something that we actually sold in podcast advertising to with Hinge. We sold into NPR and a whole bunch of other places like 5-6 years ago. So this is something that we've been tracking, especially me, for a while. But I think 2026 we're going to see a lot more moves in that because you can see how it's maturing at a much higher rate, excuse me, than it was before.
Even you see Netflix just took on an entire,
Yeah,
roster of podcasts.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So those networks are becoming really powerful and it's content that people are consuming and are very, very interested in. It's high value stuff, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, who is a good fit for, reaching out, and how can they get in contact with you? What can
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're interested in working in anywhere on any platform with influencers, reach out to us for sure. You can hit us at partner at So Standard, or you can, connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message there. But yeah, if you're interested in the influencer marketing world and you're serious about really testing some stuff, get in touch with us for sure. We'd love to help you. The reality is I named the company the Social Standard because the idea is that we're setting the standard in the space. And that's something that we have done for the last 12, 13 years and something we'll absolutely continue to do.
Yeah, so, get together your $500,000 and no, I'm just kidding.
I mean, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I always, that's a great example, but like, look, we ran influencer marketing for Adobe for 7 years, but we also have a great client who we've run for 6 years. They came to us with $20,000 and wanted to split it over 3 months. And I took it on because it was a buddy of mine. But then, it was the following year, we were at $750,000 in spend because it was working.
What do you see really working right now as far as like content wise? Like what type of
Hmm.
content is working well? So like if someone is
Yeah.
listening and they're like, well, I really need to like double down on the content that's going to bring in more revenue so I can hire
Yeah.
you guys, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think what's really working right now is it's the time that someone stays on your video, right? Your reel. So what I see a lot of people doing is it's a pretty simple kind of background movement that keeps your attention, but then it's text. It's a lot of text on the screen. So people have to hold down or scroll down to them and read the comments because that's feeding the algorithm and making it go. So it's great for kind of hacking the algorithm, it's also great for you as a brand or an influencer, as a content creator, because it doesn't require as much like hardcore editing and stuff, right? So it's a lot simpler of a visual with a deeper message. That's really working at the moment. And I've seen memes. Memes are working really well still, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to stop. I think it's, I
It's just
still,
so it's so culturally relevant that it's hard to get past it. And it's also something where a lot of people can participate. I mean, I had a client or excuse me, I had a friend on my personal podcast, Reclaim Your Magic, and she's an astrologer. And how I ended up finding her was through her Instagram, and her whole Instagram, she's like 70,000 followers. All she does is astrology memes
yep.
two times a day. And she's built a whole community around that, because you don't even know. You go and you click it and you're like, oh my gosh, she has so many people in her community. They're paying monthly subscriptions and doing courses and doing all sorts of stuff. So memes do convert. It's just maybe they aren't doing as well for like American Eagle as they are for an individual, influencer entrepreneur.
I don't know. I guess it's really just about that hook, or that's the
It's the hook.
psychology of it too, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
because comedy bypasses that lizard brain,
Yeah.
and it gets it gets people to let their guard down and actually want to buy. They would have just ignored it, right? It's crazy. We got in the top 1% of Shopify stores in the world. Fashion
Mm-hmm.
Nova was copying our ads and our products at the
Yeah.
peak, and it was off of one meme that I created.
Isn't
Millions
that
of
funny?
dollars selling one product with one meme that I made on my phone.
Isn't that funny?
It's insane.
It's wild. Yeah.
Every time I tried different ad sets, right? Like different creative
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, it never performed as well as that one meme. So I just kept pushing it,
Yeah.
kept
Yeah.
if and the funny thing is the way the algorithm works, it's like people complain like, oh, this meme again, this meme again. Well, thank you for commenting, because you're pushing it in the
Yes.
algorithm, right?
Yes.
So trolling is
Exactly.
huge too.
It is. Yeah.
I would
Yeah. For
go in
better
and
or
I would,
worse.
you've seen this before, but I would go in and I would put on the image like something that looked like there was a hair on your screen of your phone or something, and it just
Mm,
it's the thumb stoppers, right?
yeah.
Or it gets people to be like, what is that? What, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So
Yep.
lots of trolling.
Totally.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Is there anything else in 2026 that people can be on the lookout for, or that you want to share?
Yeah, I'd say be on the lookout for B2B influencers. I think those guys are going to continue to be really interesting. And then also don't sleep on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is definitely an interesting platform. We see a ton of stuff there. We've got a lot of clients running influencer work on LinkedIn, but it's also a great place to do more than just recruit employees. It's a really great way for like an executive team to have a presence and a voice in like a more polished manner. And then it goes back to, writing. Writing is still king on LinkedIn. Yeah, video is great and images are great, but people are loving the written word.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody watching, listening, thank you. We'll see you again next time.